talk show. We're back here in the studio and we have a wonderful guest today. We have Ava Whitney. Ava is a junior at Brattleboro Union High School here in town. She's an athlete. She does cross-country running, track and field, and Nordic skiing. She's interested in social sciences, guitar, yoga, and meditation, among many other things. And just last week, Ava was inducted into the National Honor Society. So we're very glad to have Ava with us. Welcome, Ava.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes, it's great to have you on the show. You've got a lot of energy, it seems, for the things that you are interested in. You grew up here in Brattleboro, but you've gone K through 12 in the public schools. And since your freshman year, halfway through your freshman year, the pandemic came in. So how has that been for you?
It's been very interesting to see how different phases of the pandemic have felt. Like at the beginning of the pandemic, it was so isolated and just so weird for everyone and felt really surreal. And then coming back to public school, 10th grade, everyone thought it was going to be normal again, which of course it wasn't. We only went into school one day a week. And then this year has just been so different. So there's been many different phases. I would say overall, it's been okay, but there's definitely been the hard parts. And I think everyone is just always constantly adjusting to the new things. And when people refer to the pandemic, it's been so much.
Yeah. There's so many different pieces of it, and I'm sure the kids' experiences, different kids have experienced it different ways. And for you, going through that, did you notice anything in particular about your focus, if you were more interested in one thing or another?
In terms of school?
Yeah.
I guess so. Zoom learning was definitely very challenging for everyone. I liked the part of being able to have more freedom to be at my own house, but it was very challenging for everyone. So I guess that's kind of made me realize a bit more about what I need to be able to focus well in school. But yeah.
Were you able to continue with sports?
I was, which is a big relief. Actually, during this time last year, the governor had shut down winter sports, and then they eventually came back, and that was a big relief for everyone's well-being.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, and that ends a way, obviously, of socializing, too.
Yeah, exactly. That was my whole social life, when you couldn't see anyone else besides doing sports.
Yes, and so growing up in Brattleboro, you've had a lot of experience with the town. What are the things that you appreciate about Brattleboro and things that you think could be improved?
Well, I don't know. I've grown up here my whole life, so there's a lot of things that I love. And I love Vermont. I love how we're always surrounded by such beauty and, I don't know, just the river and nature all around you. And that's something I've really appreciated since I was little. I've done a lot of wilderness camps, and I love driving up to northern Vermont and seeing all the mountains. So just about Vermont in general. Yeah. But about our town, there's just the things in Brattleboro, the programs that you do that just become you're used to, like going downtown to beadniks and going shopping and those kind of things. And
do you think that there's enough for kids your age?
I think so. Yeah. I think so. I didn't really do too much as a little kid. Yeah, right. I just like to stay at home. But as I've gotten older, there's been a lot of cool programs that I've realized, just cool things in the community. Yeah.
So through the course of school, you've been interested obviously in various different things. So you've got a little bit of music that you're interested in, sports obviously, but also yoga and meditation. And how did you come to those things, and how do they influence your life?
Well, I actually think during the pandemic, that brought out a lot of my interests and made me explore new things, because of course you're at home and you're bored and you need things to do. So I started guitar because my dad really likes to play guitar, and I'm not very good at it still, but it's just been something that's fun to do and learning a new thing. And yoga and meditation came to me kind of just like that. My mom is a yoga teacher, so it's always something I've grown up with, but it kind of took for me to figure it out on my own to really appreciate how awesome it is. Yeah. And they're just things I've done throughout the pandemic to connect to myself more and my own truth. Yeah.
And I would think yoga and meditation would certainly focus on that as well. How do they make you feel?
Yoga and meditation.
Well, yoga, you're using your body,
Yeah.
right? And then meditation, you're going to a quiet place.
Yeah.
How do you feel like afterwards?
I feel very, very peaceful and very more kind of, I have a better perspective on if I've been having a hard time or have had a long day. It's just something to do to anchor back into what feels good and what feels peaceful.
Yes, yes. Is it a regular part of your day?
It is. Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, with the start of school, I really wanted something I could do every day
Yeah.
to just center and relax before school, because it was a big transition at first.
Yes, yes. Well, you have to learn it. It's like anything
Yeah.
else, right?
I mean, no one is perfect, and that's not the point at all.
Right.
Yeah.
You've said that you see yourself as a creative person, and I think that many things you do, because also you've got some art in there and some photography as well. Can you talk a little bit about that, what that is to be a creative person?
Well, since I was a kid, I've been writing dozens and dozens of books, and that just came very naturally to me as a kid, and I think it does for a lot of people. But when you grow up, you kind of lose touch with that.
Yeah.
So when I was a kid, I wrote so many books and just had all these amazing ideas, and I just loved that feeling of being able to create something, whether it was art or whatever. And then I just realized that it wasn't something I wanted to pursue as a career, so I kind of stopped doing that, stopped writing stories or drawing. And then I kind of realized that you don't have to be good at it at all, and I'm not. So it's just something I do to connect to what makes me feel creative. And I also like taking photos and that kind of thing. And it's not, again, with like meditation, it's not to be good at it, it's to do it.
Right. And I think a lot with the creativity too is that you're expressing yourself. So it's another way of expressing yourself. Do you do music at all in terms of other than guitar, learning guitar?
I sing in the shower. I don't know. I like to sing. I like to use my voice in that way, but I don't know. That's kind of all. But there are also forms of creativity.
They are. And you've always been a big reader too, I understand.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, you go through phases of it, and in middle school, you're too busy to, I don't know, sit down and read a book or whatever.
Well, also doing a lot of sports, there's a rigor to that in your day in terms of scheduling. And so thus far, what kind of influences have really made a difference for you in terms of people or experiences, mentors?
Well, I'd say my parents, definitely. They're amazing people, and I'm really grateful for them and all that they've taught me and just, all that they've done for me. And I'd say family trips have had a big impact on me. We go to Maine almost every year, and just returning to the same place every year is very special, and seeing family like that. I really like to travel. So I went to Kenya when I was 14 years old, and that was such an amazing experience.
I'll bet. Was that a school program?
No, my uncle used to live there, so we took a family trip, and that was amazing. I still don't think I could have appreciated it enough being in 8th grade and having other things at the forefront of my mind, but it was so amazing. So I'd say trips and family and just traditions, I would say, and nature and being outside.
And being in high school now, again, it's pandemic years, but you're not in the classroom, so it's a little bit different. But what about teachers and people in the high school that have influenced you?
Yeah, well, the thing is you get new teachers every year, but I'm in the International Studies Academy at my school, so I've had a teacher who's taught me French and is just very interested in international studies, which is the whole point of the academy. So that has had an influence on me because that's something I want to do later in life. I would say my French teacher teaching me a lot of new French. That kind of goes along with it.
Yes.
I've been learning French since middle school, but with the pandemic, it was very hard to learn French on Zoom. So I would say I'm a little behind, but it's something I'm still interested in, and I want to travel and be able to communicate with people across the world.
Yes, and that language, right?
Yeah,
it makes a big difference. I always thought that that we should learn international sign language, right?
Wow,
And then we could all communicate all the time,
that
right?
would be perfect. Such a good idea.
Maybe that will happen at some point. And in high school, you're also part of the Brattleboro newspaper,
Yes.
the Beacon. Yeah, can you talk about that a little?
Well, I actually just joined this year, but it's been very cool because I'm very interested in going out and seeing what's going on in the community and even in just the school community. So I've written a total of 3 articles, so I haven't done too much, but it's been interesting to interview people about what's going on in the school and learn more about things you just maybe see in the hallway but don't get a real grasp of.
So you're writing about being in school as well.
Well, I wrote an article about the school farm stand, which it's a stand of fresh food and cookies and flowers and stuff that appears every Thursday in front of the lunchroom. So I wrote an article about that and the origins of that program. And then I wrote an article about a new teacher at school and those kind of things.
And you can choose your subjects.
Yes, we can.
Yeah, that's great. And it's published monthly?
Yes.
Yes. You know, speaking of that and speaking of being interested in people, this fall you were part of the Artful Streets at Gallery Walk. We had a little thing called Conversation Station, which is how I met you. And the idea behind it was to get intergenerational conversations going. So kids from the high school and adults from the community getting together and interviewing them. And I thought it was a really wonderful evening. And I think that very often, especially adults, will open up more to someone who is younger than them. What was that experience like for you?
It was really cool. Took place on such a beautiful day with the Artful Streets. That was amazing. Just all the shops. So it was already fostered a really warm sense of community. But I was super excited to be able to talk to these people, and I had researched them in my last class of the day, and I just felt like so passionate about it. So going into it, I was really excited, and they were amazing and good to talk to and meet, and I'm glad I have those videos to keep.
Yes.
So I would definitely do something like that again, and that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think the hope is to continue that as part of the gallery walk that takes place during the year. I know that you interviewed both Curtis Reed Jr. and Star Latronica. And Curtis did say that was one of the 5 best interviews he's ever had. Right. Which is saying a lot, because Curtis has been interviewed many times.
I know, that was so heartwarming, and it's just one of those moments you're like, what?
Did that spark an interest in you for talking to people in that way?
I guess it did. I'm very interested in meeting different people from different places and learning about different people's stories. So I don't know if that was something I would do as a career or just something I'm interested in.
Yeah.
But
because you did come as a journalism student. You're taking journalism in school, and that's of interest to you.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I don't know what I want in life as a career, but it's something. Yeah, I'm interested in pursuing those things that spark passion in you.
You know, that's the way to go. I mean, those are the things to follow, because you don't need to figure out what you're going to do as a career yet.
Yeah, that's what everyone's telling me, and it makes me feel better.
Well, it's good advice. Brattleboro High School has been in the paper a bit this year, having a pretty rocky start. Yeah, I don't know what your experience is in that, but what's your take on it?
Well, I feel like it's been different for everyone. I think it's been such hard circumstances for everyone with the pandemic. So it's just kind of shocked most people. We're like, what, is this really happening in our school? But I'd say it's gotten better, and there's been some better communication between students and teachers about what we can do to make the school better. But it's definitely been rough for a lot of people. So, yeah. Yeah,
and I'm wondering too, you know, one of the things that's wonderful about public schools is that you're getting a real cross-section of people, socioeconomic as well as ethnic diversity and all of that. And I imagine that there have been a lot of kids who are really struggling in many different ways. Have you come up against that much or experienced it?
I guess so. I feel like the thing about the pandemic is it's been so isolating for everyone. So there are many people who are struggling and not saying anything because it's harder to communicate. And I don't know, I think everyone's felt so distant from their friends, and that sort of thing. But I've had my struggles more at the beginning of the pandemic, so I think it's hard for everyone, and especially young people.
Yeah, younger people. And also, we're getting so used to seeing each other, we're missing a whole quarter of our faces, recognizing each other.
It's very weird to be going through high school while this is happening, and it's something I'll tell my grandchildren.
Oh, I'm sure, and just the whole body language piece. We're missing big parts of that. It's amazing that we can still communicate as well as we can. And luckily we're in a studio so that we're nicely protected here today. So you also have been doing community service, as most kids do in the high school. What are the things that you've done that have had an impact on you?
Well, the first thing I did to try and get most of my community service out of the way was be a counselor in training at Green Mountain Camp for Girls.
Oh, nice.
Which is what a lot of girls I know have done. And that was when I was in 9th grade, or when I was in 8th grade going into 9th grade. And that was a cool experience. I got to meet a lot of new people and gain kind of basic childcare skills. And then this year, of course, last year I didn't really have any chance to do any community service, because if I was to think about it, it'd be hard enough to figure out something to do with COVID and everything.
Yes.
So this year, I volunteered actually right over here at the Brattleboro downtown Halloween event.
Oh.
That was just for an evening, and that was a lot of fun. And Conversation Station counted as community service as well. And I've been volunteering at Holton Home for the elderly, and I've done that a couple of times. So I think after the pandemic, it really sparked an interest in helping the community in me. After being isolated for so long, you're like, wow, look at everything. Wow, there's so much cool things going on, and I really want to give back to my community.
That's wonderful. And Holton Home, choosing an elderly community, how is that for you?
It goes along again with trying to connect to all different types of people, and people who have had much longer lives than I have and have a lot more experience and stories to tell. So that's been very interesting and very meaningful to connect with them.
So you've been able to actually have conversations with, that's great. And it's Holton Home that's right on Western Avenue, right? Yes. One thing I was thinking of talking to you about, Ava, was, and this is kind of a dopey question, but I'm going to throw it to you anyway. What would a perfect day be for you?
That's a good question. If I was here at my house, I would wake up probably around 8 o'clock. It would be a weekend or something, and I would probably go drink some tea or some coffee, and probably, what would I do next? I'd probably do some yoga and meditate to set my day off right. And it kind of depends on what mood I was in, but maybe I really like to spend time alone, and that's something I realized in the pandemic, so I'd probably go on a walk. It sounds very simple. Go on a walk in the woods, read, relax, go for a run, because that always makes me feel better. Make myself a very good lunch, maybe drive around, go to a new place.
That's right, you can drive, so you can go places.
See a friend. It's very simple what my perfect day would be. If I was traveling, it'd be very different. But that's what I would,
Are there places in particular that you would love to travel to?
Yes. Since I was little, I've just had this huge desire to explore the world. So it really depends. I really want to go back to Africa and different parts there. I want to go to Peru. And that's just a place I've always wanted to go to. Places in Europe, Japan, Paris, London, Amsterdam, Greece, so many places.
You've got a long list. Does geography have anything to do with that?
Actually, when I was a little kid, in my grandfather's shed, I found this old geography book from like the 1940s, and I looked at it every day, and I memorized all the countries, and it has that's kind of the first thing I felt super, super passionate about.
Do you remember the time in your life when the idea of a map changed from being a flat surface to being a round surface, a globe?
Well, actually, when you said that, I was thinking of when the time a map changed from a book map to a Google map. That's what I thought of initially. But I think probably when I was 6 years old, and I explored the world more. I remember going to California with my dad when I was 4 years old, and I don't remember much of that, but that was very cool for me to take an airplane and think, wow, there's a whole world. So,
Yeah, and so maybe flying, I think, too, could give you that perspective, definitely, because there are times when you can almost see the curve of the earth, right? Do you see yourself in any particular place that would feel like more like home or more comfortable?
Well, I feel very comfortable in Vermont. I really love this state, and I know a lot of kids who really don't like it, which makes me sad. They're like, oh, I can't wait to get out of Vermont. I'm like, what? I love Vermont. So maybe I'm considering lots of different places for college. I went to Oregon when I was 12 years old. That was really amazing, Portland, Oregon. So maybe the Pacific Northwest. Or Northern California, where my cousins live. I definitely want to go to a new place, maybe out west.
It'd be interesting to be in a different climate, right?
Yeah, and I like Maine a lot too. Maine feels very homey.
And going back just a little bit to remembering your first trips, do you have a first memory of being a kid?
I have a notes app in my phone for early memories because I think of them randomly and I don't want to forget them. But I would say probably being in preschool was one of my first memories, and walking and playing on the structures and just being a kid and doing all those fun things. And
Do you keep a journal?
Preschool. I do.
Do you?
I'd call myself a journal addict. I journal like every day.
Do you really?
It's weird because there's some things you do like exercise that you do kind of grudgingly, and you're like, oh, I guess I'll do this because it'll make me feel better. But I physically need to journal every day. Otherwise, I don't know.
And do you do it at the end of the day?
Or? I do, yeah. It's just something I've done since I was in 7th grade, more to just keep track of what was going on in my life. But it just really helps me after the day to write all my thoughts and experiences in the day out on paper. So that helps me a lot.
You think a lot about the world that you're in and the world that you're living in, and this whole notion of you being interested in social sciences, which includes many things, you know, but certainly observation of behaviors, et cetera. How do you feel about the world we live in now?
That's a very interesting question because it's a very broad question.
Very
of course,
broad, very broad.
But there are days when I read a scary article or something and I just start crying in the bathroom and I'm like, oh, this is terrible. And then there are days when you're walking on the street and you see someone, you smile and you feel so warm and optimistic. So I would say that there's a lot of good in the world and a lot of bad in the world, and that's how it's supposed to be. I think they can both exist, and we can work to make the world a better place, but also acknowledge that all the bad things that do happen and try and be kinder to one another and have more honest conversations.
Are any of those things in particular capture your interest and motivate you in any way?
I would say definitely climate change and the environment is something I'm really passionate about. I'm still figuring out ways I can help more, but that's something that's kind of on the forefront of my mind a lot of the time. Just, human rights issues, inequality issues, those kind of things. But I'm still learning about history and how everything came to be in the world I was born into.
And your history that you're learning is very different than the history, for instance, I learned. I think it's a broader history and more inclusive. Do you self-monitor news?
That's a good question. My teacher in my journalism class talks about that a lot, trying to have a non-biased, clean news. So I say I get a lot of my news from the Brattleboro Reformer, of course, more local news. But that is something I try and do to get both sides of the story.
Do you tune in to different news venues in particular?
I mostly get all my news online, so I like to look at different papers and websites.
That must be pretty interesting because there are a lot of different views going on.
Yeah.
Ava, you have done a lot with sports over the years, starting, I think, quite young. Yeah. Track and field, the cross-country running, Nordic skiing. Is that part of your daily routine and something that you are always looking forward to?
It is, especially it was during the pandemic when you're in school all day on Zoom. it's something at the end of the day you can think, oh, I had a bad day, but at least I can go move and be active and do something I love. So it's helped a lot. And what my parents have always taught me when I was little and was sad is if you go outside and if you get exercise, you'll always feel better. I mean, not always, but most of the time.
Yeah, you get those endorphins going,
definitely.
right?
Yeah, it's a chemical thing.
That's right. Do you learn that in school? You learn about that kind of biology?
I probably at some point.
Oh, you haven't been there yet. Looking forward, as much as that is possible for any of us, is there something that draws you, that compels you, that you're excited about?
I would say definitely graduating high school for a lot of kids and that feels like a huge milestone in your life. And I would say what we talked about before, traveling the world and going to a new place. And I would say maybe going back to a place that I hadn't been to in a long time and realizing how different that I was. That's something I've already realized a lot going to places that I've been to as a kid and realizing, wow, so much has changed and realizing how you've changed for the better. So going back to those nostalgic places when I'm older, something I look forward to.
That's true with movies and books and things like that as well. I'm finding that, I'm rereading things that I read or watched years and years ago, and I have a completely different take on them very often. So it says a lot about one's perceptions and the influences that you get that color those things. Yes. So you will, your National Honor Society, right, which is a great thing. Congratulations. It's very exciting. What do you do in National Honor Society?
Well, it's my first year, so I'm not quite sure any specific things that we've done, but it's we'll do fundraisers for scholarships. And we induct new members into the society, and we have meetings, but I'll have to let you know when I have our first meeting. Yeah,
that's something to look forward to as well. That's by merit. They become part of National Honor Society.
And you have to do an application too.
Because you haven't been in person a lot with school and teachers and walking the halls over the last almost 2 years now, I think it will be very interesting. When that changes and you go back in and acclimating back into that kind of social scene. Do you anticipate that?
Well, actually, we go a full day a week now.
You do a full day?
Yes. And that has been very different, but I've found myself surprised at how easy I've been able to adapt to that. But it's definitely a lot different, and I feel like everyone has changed. But I'm really grateful for my friends and people that I hadn't talked to for a while who still want to hang out, and even though we're so different, so that's been wonderful. But something that's kind of hard is that there's not really much chance to meet new people with school because you see the same people every day. So that's been something I've been working on too, trying to reach out to old friends and that sort of thing. But it's been good, and it's been different for everyone.
Yes, and I assume too that when things go back to, it'll never be the same, but when things change so that we're able to be more in person, that the social scene will again start evolving, but I bet it'll be different in some ways.
I know, and I'm very grateful for the pandemic, honestly, because it's shown me a lot how to be alone and to be happy with that and to really be just so happy and joyous in your own company, and that's been really wonderful. And that's one of the biggest realizations I've had.
That's a wonderful positive thing to take away from the pandemic. Good for you.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much for being on the show. It was lovely having you. We wish you all the best, and we look forward to seeing what you're going to be doing.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, Ava. Thank you all for tuning in out there in TV land. We are here. We are a weekly show. We've got a lot more shows that will be coming up. So stay tuned, be kind, and say hello to each other.